Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are joined by some of the biggest brands when it comes to collegiate esports, talking about brands in collegiate. We'll be covering a variety of collegiate programming and activations from each brand, how their collegiate initiatives are structured, where they like to take their programs. So we'll be able to go through all of that, what they look for, specifically in regards to collegiate esports. So I'm very excited with all of these panelists. A variety of people up here were my seniors in the collegiate space, so it's very excited to be up here with all of you guys. So we'll go down the line doing introductions. I suppose I'm kind of in the middle here, but I'll start. My name is Sarah Wag. I'm the events manager for UConnect Esports, as well as the esports arena manager and professor at Durham College. Going from left to right, we'll start with Kitty.
Hi, my name is Kitty. I'm the esports sponsorship specialist at HyperX. I lead esports sponsorships ranging from the esports teams relationships, along with esports tournaments, and of course, all things collegiate.
Hi, my name is Eugenia. I run the collegiate program at Corsair.
Hi, my name is Robert Chen. I'm the business development manager for education, and I manage all the esports sponsorships for college.
Hey guys, my name is Dominic. I'm over at NVIDIA, leading the GeForce Student Program.
Okay.
Kevin,
Hi,
you're next.
Sorry. It's all Sarah. My bad.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I work on product and scholastic partnerships at Twitch.
So with brands in collegiate, we're going to be focusing very heavily on sponsorships and approaching brands. So we've broken this panel into 3 different sections, starting with sponsorships, moving into taking your collegiate game to the next level, and then finishing off with collegiate over the years. So within sponsorships, one of the biggest problems for collegiates right now from a collegiate leader position is there's not really any standardization in collegiate sponsorship value, making it very difficult to gauge what you can and should be asking for, what's appropriate, and what you can communicate with the sponsor that you're looking to approach. So the first question I have is actually for Robert, because he deals very heavily within the business management side. And I'd like to know from your perspective, Robert, what data does organizations and administrations from collegiate need to have on hand to take to you as a brand? What sort of criteria are you looking for as a brand?
I want to first thank UConnect for inviting me to join this panel. It's a super awesome panel. So in terms of the data, one of the first things I want to ask about these esports programs is, are you guys going to be hardcore or like casual? So when you guys meet up weekly, are you guys going to do like free-for-all Smash Brothers? Are you guys going to be doing like a 5-round scrim with Overwatch with another college? Or maybe just like a little bit of both. Some of the most important things is the enrollment statistics compared to like the total enrollment of the college. Your organizational and social stats are very important. How much followers you got on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Insta. And then also we're gonna be looking at the content of it. Most of these programs, they just post like, hey, we're gonna be doing an event here, but I wanna see content. Maybe get some podcasts, some cool recap videos of you guys, some really cool highlights, matched up to some really good music. And of course, memes, right? Meme quality has to be really, really good as well. Local events, what are you guys going to be doing? Tournaments or maybe even charity events? Please document everything. Pictures are so important. Really want to be looking at all the pictures of all your guys' cool events that you do, how you guys are having fun and all the attendees that come in. And of course, accolades, right? For the major tournaments, TESPA, Collegiate Star League, and then also NACE. What do you guys' placement? And also with the help of UConnect, these guys have so much abundance of knowledge, this whole UConnect team with knowing the standardization. So I've been getting a lot of help with UConnect, just trying to get all the knowledge down, getting help from them.
And one of the things that students typically think about when they think about approaching a sponsor is maybe having a sponsorship deck of sorts, what to include in sponsorship decks. But another thing they're concerned about is what sort of mistakes should they avoid in terms of sponsorship decks. So Dom and Kitty, I know you guys probably get hundreds of these throughout the year. What sort of common mistakes do you see student leaders making on their sponsorship decks? If you want to start with Dom first.
Sure. Yeah. I think I mean, first of all, I just want to say that doing a sponsorship deck is now it's the norm, but it used to be that way. So if you aren't doing sponsorship decks or your club isn't used to doing sponsorship decks, please consider doing them. It's a lot easier for me after you've convinced me that I want to support your event, that I have to go talk to a bunch of my leadership and convince them, and I can just pass along the deck. So if the deck speaks for itself, that is super, super helpful. Some common mistakes that I see in sponsorship decks. The first one is not adjusting to the sponsor in particular. So really basic things like not putting on the sponsorship logo when you send them the deck. Sometimes not even changing the name of the deck. And then, in particular to like NVIDIA or other companies, right? Like if your event is mainly Smash focused, right? Like it's hard for me to be able to sponsor that as a PC gaming company. But if you highlight all the things that you're doing in PC, then it's a lot easier to do that. So, maybe change things, go and tweak things based on the sponsor that you're appealing to. The other thing that I don't see is clear expectations on gives and gets. So, either, have a tier, have different tiers that, people can support. And then at different, sponsorship levels, so what are we giving you guys, and what are we getting from you guys? If that isn't super clear, and that isn't like one of the first things that I see or that catches my eye, then it's harder for me to share that with my superiors. And then the last thing, I think, at least for me, before I pass it on to Kitty, is make sure that your past event pictures or pictures of the space are included in the deck. That's super helpful if I've seen that you've been able to run successful past events, and it's not just like some thing that you put together for the first time and then you say you're expecting 1,000+ people when it's not clear that you're able to handle that type of responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah, just adding on to Dom's points, we often get not enough info. One thing that I've always seen is not enough social media metrics or just the expectations of what is coming out of the event or just the sponsorship in general. Being able to really define like what deliverables or what assets you're able to produce and being realistic from them. I've seen like a lot of those gotcha data, not that we're questioning the level of metrics that you're providing, but it's good to make sure that all the information is being very clear. Another thing on here is really just making sure what is it exactly you're seeking from the sponsorship, and being able to put that into the deck. A lot of times they programs or collegiates usually ask for just support, but they don't say exactly what is it that you're looking for or what specific product is going towards. And a good combat to that is just explaining in detail. We're looking for X amount to go towards the giveaway or X amount to go towards the prize winners. So adding that kind of information is really helpful.
So it kind of ties back into what Robert was saying about having all of the clear information on hand, showing your value, showing your worth, but also being clear with what you want, because sponsors aren't going to try and guess at what it is. You've got to have the courage to ask for it. But Kevin, Twitch Student is a little bit different when it comes to sponsorships. You guys are a broadcast platform. So instead of asking for specific event-related things, you might be approached in terms of online streaming or content. So when students in clubs approach you for sponsorships, do their decks differ anyway? Is there anything different you would be looking for in a sponsorship deck that's coming to Twitch Student?
A lot of the events that we do support are more for college club events. Two is we do get student streamers that we do provide sponsorship, but not in like a sponsorship. It's actually a scholarship. So we have individual student streaming scholarship coming out for this year. And then we also support student club events, which is when you have a gaming and esports club on campus. They would a lot of them would organize events and LANs or viewing parties, and we like to support those too.
Okay, so there's a variety of things that collegiate leaders can be supported for other than just your traditional esports event. So when it comes to sponsorships for brands, you guys receive hundreds of sponsorship decks or sponsorship asks. What can an organization do to set themselves apart that a lot of them are not doing or not thinking of? Are there any examples of ideal schools or unique initiatives that you've seen? And I think this is something that's right in Eugenia's ballpen.
Yeah, so I think first, if you guys are currently administrators that are exploring the opportunities within esports and gaming and interested in starting a program up in your schools, the important thing to understand is that you are not an early adapter. There are hundreds of programs already available globally. So what you really need to do is you need to create something new, unique, and authentic to your community. In sponsorship decks, we hear about, we estimate these number of students will be gamers. We are going to put our gaming space physically in the student union that gets X number of foot traffic. But the reality is that you need to create something that works best for your community. So I think really great examples include Cal Esports, who the campus itself is a very politically charged campus. A lot of students are poli-sci or focused on making a greater impact on the space. So they have their innovators lab, and they also have their women in gaming program. That's a big hallmark to their program, is that they directly sponsor and support female gamers on campus that have dedicated time in their community centers, that have their own mentorship program that they run and operate. And they do tours that are specifically geared towards helping these girls get internship opportunities. So I think that is a really unique thing to their campus that is designed to represent their politically charged campus and the values that they have. We also see schools like UCI who have high school esports leagues that they directly operate, so that they essentially create a feeder program. So anyone who's competing within the high school space locally, everybody knows that local students are more likely to attend local colleges. That's not an argument anywhere. So you have students who are competing through middle school, high school, that's sponsored by UCI, and recognizing that there's a direct path into UCI who has scholarships and stipends available for students who want to compete under their brand. So it's essentially created a whole ecosystem that not only supports hundreds of gamers at the high school level that don't really have a great, robust infrastructure to compete in, but also creating a way to scout really good talent for your school. So I think that that's been a really unique activation. I actually took the idea for the Corsair Build a PC program, where we go to different schools and we teach them how to build a PC, from a student group that had partnered with their school's IT department to create a semester-long 2-credit class on how to build PCs on campus. So thought that was a great activation. I know a lot of schools don't have robust IT departments, so we decided to take those to different schools. So figure out what's unique to your school, what you guys have that no one else has, and find something that makes you really unique.
So I think across the board, you guys would all be comfortable saying you don't sponsor just esports tournaments. You're open to more than just your 5v5 events. So don't be afraid to get creative and see what works, because it's interesting to be able to expand your community and seeing what else is up there. And that brings me to taking Collegiate to the next level. So this is something where collegiate initiatives, you've always more or less done things a similar way, but Collegiate has expanded, grown, and changed. So almost every brand has begun initiatives to engage with Collegiate in some form. But there seems to be some hesitation among brands that may be non-endemic or don't understand where the starting point could be. So what are some of the major barriers that the collegiate scene is having that is keeping the ecosystem from taking their next big step forward? And Robert, did you want to take this one?
Sure. Thank you. So one of the biggest disadvantage I see that working with college organizations is, every year the leadership kind of changes, right? So I feel like one of the best ways is building that really, really good culture. And one of the best ways to do that is instilling all the members to pretty much learn how to lose, right? Not being able to BM or blame others if you mess up, but actually focus on how to get better. All these fundamentals and principles, they're going to help build a really, really popular community that people want to join. And from there, you're going to be able to get administrative backing and actually get that really big step of getting into varsity. So once you get into varsity, there's a whole slew of things that are open up to you, such as school funding, dedicated practice spaces, competition space, getting an esports coach. All of this will definitely get you into the next level of sponsorship from main brands. And most importantly, you're going to be able to build a community of students that are going to have great innovative experience to learn, as well as being able to connect and network and ultimately help each other become successful past their college lives.
Perfect. And Kitty, from your perspective, what are the most consistent and potentially frustrating problems within collegiate?
I think from what I've seen is a lot of lack of accountability and lack of professionalism. I know that, just being from the collegiate scene previously, there's a lot of drama that happens in the collegiate scene, and I think a lot of us really understand that. But oftentimes that leaks over to, working with other sponsors and other partners. A big point that Rob hit on was, presidents graduating for the next year and not properly training or even updating the new president that comes in. So just being able to focus on that and really think about leaving your legacy behind with the upcoming and new presidents really helps change your perspective and overall change your skills and being able to set that for your future career and also for the school in general.
So having a good transitional program builds a foundation. And Eugenia, you've been surrounded by students for years. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so it actually kind of exactly mirrors Kitty's point, but takes it, I think, just one step further. We understand that drama happens. You guys are college kids. I was once a college kid, don't ask me when, but we know, you're learning how to manage these interpersonal relationships, and you're figuring out, how do you be a leader, right? You are running a club. How do you represent yourself to sponsors? And also, how are you still a student and a child? But remember that the one thing that's holding you back is how you view yourself. So I hear the term, the esports industry is a baby industry. It's budding. No, it's been here for over 20 years now. We're not a new industry, so you need to step up and be professional. If you guys are talking to sponsors, make sure that we don't see the fights that are happening behind the scenes, that we don't see all of the things that are kind of tearing away at your professionalism, because ultimately we want to know that we can trust you to share our name as a sponsor, as a brand, as being connected between the two. So the more that you allow yourselves to not take this seriously, the more we won't. I actually partner with not just gaming clubs, but hackathons, IEEE groups, dev clubs. Women in Gaming is one that I mentioned. So I don't see that in any other groups. Hackathons even started around the same time as esports and gamings, but all of these students know that as they're organizing hackathons, these are going directly into their portfolio to get software development jobs or coding jobs somewhere else. Even hardware hacks are happening. You need to recognize that esports is not special, and you guys need to kind of step up to the plate a little bit.
There's a lot of visibility surrounding collegiate leaders, so you've got to be very careful. You're building your own personal brand when you're a collegiate leader or participating in these events. So your time as a collegiate leader is more visible to not only the community around you, but also to industry professionals. So that ties in very closely to the next question. What are some ways student leaders can manage their personal brands alongside their collegiate organizational brand?
Yeah, so the number one thing, I think, just to feed off of my last comment, is that your brand should have its own mission statement, the same way that you as a person know who you are and what values are important to you. Your brand should have the same mission that you do, and they should be shared with all of your student leaders, and all of you collectively together should share that. And when you share that, you can find brands like Corsair who have the same mission statement or sentiment or things that we want to support. So I am more likely to support a group like a hackathon that's looking to develop hardware and software because that's what my company does. Whereas if you guys as a group collectively want to build your streaming, your personalities, community content, I think Twitch Student would be a really great option because they are a streaming platform. And as you are navigating these relationships, you need to not burn any bridges. And I think that that's the really, really hard part is that you have a brand, you have a statement and a sentiment that you guys are holding on to, but you need to recognize that brands shift, your mission statement will shift, and you don't want to burn any bridges. Every 4 years, your campus will have a whole new set of students, maybe 6 if it takes a little bit more time, that's okay. Every 6 years, you have a whole new set of students on campus who care about very different things. Your club might evolve, but what's going to happen if you told every other brand that you don't want to work with them because your mission statements don't align? So even as you don't burn bridges amongst yourselves, don't burn bridges among the industry.
Very much so. And Dom, NVIDIA has student ambassadors. So they're not only collegiate leaders in garnishing attention that way, but now they're also representing the NVIDIA brand. So what advice do you have for student leaders if they're looking to take their personal brand and attach it to the NVIDIA brand?
For sure, yeah. So I want to first start off by talking about the fact that like Eugenia mentioned, I want to echo a lot of Eugenia's points actually, that this industry is not super young as a lot of people think, and that a lot of people are trying to get into the industry. But since you're in college, you're actually so far ahead of the people and have so much more opportunity to get experience than the people who aren't there. So I want to take a look at people who are starting their own projects and really encourage people to, like Eugenia mentioned, take things that you really care about by looking at what do you want to do and then why do you want to do it. If you can answer those 2 things, you can attach the things that you care about to your organization and your school and your brand. Let's take a look at Rachel from ICGN, right? She started that as a response to COVID. That's amazing, right? That's something that she personally felt like she needed to do and she wanted to get started. You can take a look at FlyQuest and how they've rebranded this year to doing a lot more environmental things, right? Previously, we talked a lot about how League of Legends teams were all kind of the same thing. We would just talk about kills and tower takes and stuff like that. But now they can talk about how many trees they saved or how many turtles they saved, and that's the things that differentiates them. I think in Collegiate, there's not a lot of schools that have really differentiated themselves outside of pure numbers, right? This school has more people coming here. The school has less, or they have more competitive people. But I think if you were to take Utah for an example and how they've always done a really good job of differentiating themselves with their video content or their graphics and things like that. There's definitely a lot of ways to take things that you care about and apply those to your own brand and make sure that you stand out as an individual.
And then throwing it over to Kevin, you deal with a lot of students that are streaming. And if you're streaming, you're your own content creator, your own influencer. How important is your own personal branding now that you're out there for everybody to see?
I mean, you're putting forward a version of you online, and that's incredibly important now now that you're leaving a digital footprint all over the internet. I think I'm just digital brand and student streaming. Sorry, I'm processing this a little bit. I don't know why you wouldn't take it seriously or why you wouldn't want to make it meaningful, or making it's part of who you are and what you want to put out there and what that represents to you in the community that you want to build. And that's everything nowadays. It's based on your reputation. It's one of the hardest things to earn and the fastest thing to lose. And it's almost unrepairable. You're unrepairable when you do lose it. So I think what I'm trying to say is be conscientious of what you put out there, and also come out and moderate your community in the way that in the community that you want to see for your channel. I think a lot of student creators are they would like they kind of let their viewers define their chat, and they do. And then there's negative ones that come in and they don't represent the community, but they become the bad eggs of that community. Sometimes it's important that it is just as important to defend your community just as much, just as the same for your viewers. So that's why it's such a hard question to answer, and I apologize. Like Sarah kind of sent me a fast one there, but what I'm trying to say is that yeah, it's super important, and I think a lot of creators struggle with this, where you let a couple of bad eggs start saying things in your chat, and they kind of create a more negative experience, or an experience that you do not want to see in your community, and you have to defend that and you have to guard that, because your channel is your space, and your viewers and your community, they come because of you, and I think that's really important. And then we've seen communities kind of defend the creators too, where they also self-moderate on those things. But yeah, I think that's kind of why I stumbled on this question, because it's a very hard question, and it's something that we don't defend enough. And I think, yeah, so defending your channel, your stream, your brand, and also defending outside influences coming in and trying to change it in a way that you don't want to say no, because you think that the viewer count is more important. It's really unfortunate, but it's and I want to emphasize that, you know, it's important to defend what your community stands for.
And Kevin circled back on community a number of times. I've seen a lot of collegiate communities specifically taking that next step into a specified gaming space, or having a varsity program, a esports arena. How do those sorts of initiatives, gaming spaces, varsity spaces, compare to student organization brands that have traditionally supported in terms of sponsorship value? So what are the differences between club events and looking at varsity programs or designated gaming spaces? Robert, you've touched quite a bit on the logistics in this term, so what are you thinking?
I see once varsity programs begin, there's a lot of GPA requirements that go in. A lot of students got to work hard, play hard. Also, we're seeing a lot of curriculum focus. So these new varsity level teams, they're going to enhance academic offerings by bringing esports into a curriculum that's across like multiple disciplines, including broadcasting, digital sports production, business, esports management, animation, and even sport administration.
Oh, wow. So a variety of things across the board then. So yeah. Dominic, if someone approaches you for arena sponsorships, varsity sponsorships, what does that look like?
For us specifically as NVIDIA, we're always looking to, build better spaces on campus for people to game, right? I think there's a huge disparity in, from the top students to the less fortunate students who may not have the best equipment to game for. I think that, if you're looking for an arena, you want to have the absolute best peripherals, the best GPUs, the best of everything, so that, everyone's competing on the same level, right? The way that sponsorships are traditionally held are like the same things that like your decks are looking for, right? So the number of people that are going to be in that space, the people that are playing, like what is the level of education, things like that. So if you're looking for an arena sponsorship, please make sure that those things are at the forefront of your ask. And then I also want to touch on how arena sponsorships compare to traditional student organization brands, and how those things support, if that's all right. I've seen a lot of schools when they get these gaming spaces. I think it's phenomenal for them. A lot of them have administrative support, and so more people are gaming, more people are being able to host game nights and stuff like that. But I want to also touch on the fact that like some schools, once they do get these, they're forgetting to host larger events or thinking outside the box. So
And you guys here are all alumni of Collegiate at some level, so you've seen the collegiate scene change over the number of the years. We didn't have esports arenas back when we first started. So how has the landscape changed since you first started in terms of the affected brands on campus? Have there been any trends you're keeping an eye on that may affect your program in the future in terms of collegiate campuses? And I'd like to see Eugenia's perspective on this one.
I might actually be one of the first students in the US to look at the gaming landscape on campuses when picking colleges to apply to. My dream school was actually UC Berkeley, which is one of the programs that we are really proud to sponsor at Corsair. I unfortunately did not get in, but at the time they were known for their StarCraft 2 team. They had literal professional players who had thousands of dollars, who had won in tournaments. They had a League of Legends team that was doing very, very well. So they had a lot of, at the club level, a lot of really successful esports athletes that I really admired. And they had a great biology program. I'm actually a graduate of the Boston University Marine program. But when I didn't get in, I had to look at other options. And Boston University also had a number of Grandmaster students. They had a really long history of gaming clubs on campus. At the time of my club, at the time I joined, the club was 7 years old already. This is one of the older gaming clubs in the US. But they were hosting events. They were great, but they could get bigger. So I decided to go over. I essentially took over the club my first year and got to develop it into what it is today. I'm really proud of all of the younger students who have taken over for me since I graduated. But even the brands that have participated within that time and my time working have changed. I think back when I was a student, Roseville was a really big collegiate esports program supporter. Steel Series, which is where I actually had my first internship, was also a big supporter of collegiate esports, and they were hosting a number of programs. But we see that they've kind of taken a step back as other brands have kind of stepped forward. And I think that's something that students always have to be on top of, is what brand is looking to get into your space and why. So for us, it's a little bit of a recruiting play. Of course, we're looking for people who match our precision gameplay, high performance language at Corsair. But of course, there are other brands that are looking for very specific things. And I'm sure Kitty can speak on this as well. But I know that Kitty and her team focus a lot on like hardware development with students. So they're always looking to partner with orgs to do beta testing or hardware tests under NDAs with their local campuses. That's not something that we really do. So look for the brands that are changing their perspective on what students can provide for them, and that's how you're going to create the best relationships.
Perfect. Well, Kitty, Eugenia threw you a curveball here. Do you have anything to add from the HyperX perspective?
I think Eugenia said it very well. I think a lot of brands have their own unique, different ways of how they contribute to the collegiate community in general. HyperX has one of those where, we're always looking for ways to improve our product. So inviting out to, local colleges definitely really helps. One day, you never know, someone from your school might be the next Shroud or next Ninja, and you'll never know it. Or what if, one of the players ends up working for great teams such as Dignitas or Cloud9. I've personally seen a lot of collegiate leaders go into the space. It was a surprise to me to see, some familiar faces when I work with the esports team. So it's always great to strengthen those relationships.
Very much so. And Kevin, as someone who's been through the collegiate scene and has continued to help other colleges and universities build their esports scene, how have you kept an eye on the collegiate scene, and how does that affect your Twitch student programming?
Keeping an eye on the scene. I guess could you clarify what keeping an eye on the scene means?
Are there any trends within the industry that you've been paying attention in terms of collegiate? Have you seen a change in the way collegiate brands are activating that affects how you approach them as Twitch student?
Yeah, I would have to kind of double down on what Eugenia said earlier in the panel of like divesting in our resources and support in other things outside of esports clubs. I think they'll always be the core, but I think at the same time, I think we have to look at different ways to get people into gaming and esports as a learning vehicle. So what I'm very excited about is classes and curriculum around gaming and esports. Not degrees, but more like one-off 2 to 3 credit classes that we can do it at scale and get more people to apply to learn about, let's say, streaming, or to learn about esports productions, or to learn about game development stuff. Kind of hit different facets of the gaming space. Why I want to focus on the classes and curriculum side is because, as you're a freshman, sophomore, trying to get into your major, you have to fill out general elective credits. So one of the things that we work on is creating like a streaming 101 class. And, as you're scrolling through your GEs, you see a streaming 101 class and you probably will want to take it, or maybe it's interesting, maybe less boring than other classes or something. And we've seen them actually get waitlisted quite fast. And that's something that I've been very excited about is introducing stuff like this more. So these classes around content creation is not necessarily to say that everyone's going to be a content creator. It's more or less understanding the what it's like to be a content creator, so you can emphasize, because whether you like it or not, you're surrounded by content creators nowadays. But we're revolving. It revolves around, like, this whole industry revolves around it in entertainment as a whole. And I think teaching this is critical in understanding how to move forward in your career. So that's kind of the trends that I'm very excited to see more of, and I think it helps get more students involved in gaming esports outside of the club or through the Varsity esports program. A lot of times, Varsity esports is heavily PC based, which is not inclusive and it's not accessible for everybody, especially when PC is just one way to play games outside of console, mobile, and so on and so forth, and tabletop and trading card games. There's so many different facets of this space that makes us who we are, and I think it's not entirely inclusive yet. So things like classes and curriculum is a way to equal that. So
outside of the traditional scope of sponsorships. So on that note, what other intersections or value propositions are brands looking for out of collegiate or trying to push for? Kitty, did you want to take a stab at this one? I know Kevin's already touched a little bit on the academic component and really wanting to get that integration.
Yeah, so what's great about, just being in college in general, you're able to try out brand new things and be ahead of certain trends. One thing that I've seen lately, everyone is trying to grow and create an arena on top of that. But what's really great to kind of see and also, have that extra value is, going into graphic design. Beautiful presentations have always been an interest, and we've actually been able to, actually get some interns from that, or even contractually third-party one-off works to do some of our other initiatives. Another one is, production, or even team management skills, or overall event management skills. Being able to show those through these types of sponsorships really does add value to even more in future operations. A really great thing is a lot of the esports teams are looking to participate heavily into the collegiate scene, as well as high school students and even third-party organizations like Boys and Girls Club are looking to, get some ideas from the collegiate scene on what they're building. So it's really great to have that insight there, and also to brush up on your sales skills and potentially, move this into a different area career-wise, or even just develop the collegiate program in general.
Perfect. And Kitty, since I just had you talking, I would like to know what your opinion on COVID-19 is and how it has affected or changed your collegiate initiatives, because this whole panel was almost inspired because of the effects COVID-19 have had on all of us. So how has it changed your collegiate initiatives?
No, it's really a shame. I really love going to on-site events and seeing this on person. I come from a fighting game community background, so live events is pretty much our bread and butter at that point, right? Honestly, going to other events, going to like a DreamHack is where I first, learned about Uconnect, to be honest, and being able to connect there. So having all that be taken away by COVID is really devastating, but it's really great to see, especially Uconnect going through the online route and having these creative outlets to do it has really changed our perspective on, oh, well, we can actually still continue to support collegiate programs, because it's been proven that we can do online tournaments, we can do online panels, we can do, online content and spread it that way. So nothing is stopping esports. We're still going on a roll. And, COVID has, in a way, shown us that there's alternatives to these types of things.
And Kevin, did you have any input on the COVID-19 effect?
Yeah, so right now our initiatives is getting devices and internet access to students, especially at-risk youth and people of color. We've noticed that through proven data that students cannot afford to participate in school because of the nature of everything has to be online, especially those that demand higher computing power. So I think for navigating through COVID, I'm trying to learn as much as possible how students are completing school. It's been a while since I went back to school, so I want to know what their pain points are, and that one us moving everything online is the first thing, but then two is helping program directors keep the lights on and helping them build their communities all online now and their teams online now. And then we've had some universities just but just let players use the PCs, bring home the PCs from the arena because they don't have a gaming PC at home. So there's a lot of as much as gaming esports is thriving in COVID-19, there's a lot of people that do not have the means to thrive.
Perfect. And since we're getting close to the 45 mark, I'm going to switch it over to Q&A because we have had quite a few questions come through the chat. So the first one that I'm seeing here is from UT Brian. Collegiate esports is largely influenced by the climate of the industry. How do you see recent allegations affecting policy in schools with relation to esports? Did anyone want to take a first stab at that one? That is a pretty tricky question if it's regarding specifically allegations affecting policy in schools. But the first part of that question we've talked about briefly, the esports climate being influenced by the climate of the industry. So if we turn that, we already talked about COVID-19 and how that recent change has put the industry completely from the in-person events that we lived and thrived off of into the online climate. I imagine it's affecting schools in the same way. A lot of schools have switched to a hybrid online format.
So I'm happy to take this question. Figuring out the most appropriate way to answer it. I think a lot of schools already have really robust infrastructure for catching the allegations that may come out. And they're very aware of what is going on their campus when it is reported. But in terms of collegiate programming, we're already seeing that moving more quickly than the administrators of the school, so maybe your school board, gaming clubs are actually moving much more quickly. So I've been extremely proud to see that some clubs have kicked people off of their rosters for inappropriate behavior when these allegations are confirmed and corroborated. I'm really proud of the fact that a lot of our partnered schools, so the administrators of these programs, are saying we will in fact require that X number of girls try out for the team before picking our final roster. I've been really proud to see that they say that their spaces are safe spaces and they will dedicate specifically women-only hours so that they can come in and game. I've been really proud of the response from the gaming community. I think this has been eye-opening, and they are doing what they can to make appropriate changes on their campus more quickly than the overall school may be doing so.
Perfect. Moving to a very sponsorship-heavy question from UCF Annabelle. Powerhouse schools often get partnerships due to how strong their team's performance is. How can newer clubs work towards being on the level of these schools? Do you prefer a school with a strong competitive reputation, large community, or both?
I'll take this one. While performance is very, very important in their decision to create partnerships, getting a large community is important as well. So if you guys aren't doing so good, I feel like the best way to build upon that and get those partnerships is focusing on the your marketing for the club. Whether it be just trying to get the news out there to create for Club Rush, being able to get the marketing materials out to all the incoming freshmen, building upon the the community and getting a lot of people will definitely get our attention as well.
And for the rest of you guys, do you agree? Same sentiment?
In particular, I shouldn't say this. I think both big organizations, mid-sized orgs and small ones, all have their own pros and cons. But from a personal level, I actually love working with small organizations, especially between the 15 to 50 member range, because I think this is where we get the most intimate relationships. I can really talk to every student on campus. I can answer their questions. I can develop programs based on their feedback. And essentially, let's just say from a base pure marketing standpoint, when there's only 15 to 50 students, I can talk to every single one of them and explain why the Corsair Virtuoso headset has great sound and mic quality. I can explain how our Corsair ecosystem works. I can try to encourage them to apply to our internships. But when we start hitting 3,000 people coming to your events, I can only talk to a couple hundred. And each of those are going to be snappy, quick, hello, hi, this is Corsair student, sign up for my raffle. It's not as intimate. So you need to remember that, yes, the pros to the big ones is that I get a large number of impressions, but then on the smaller side, I get a lot of engagement. So I think if you guys are a new club that's just starting out, do not feel shy, do not feel intimidated. You guys have a lot going for you. You just remember that it's all marketing. You got to tell me why I should focus on you, and we're all good.
I agree with you, Gina, especially about the headset.
Oh, is that the one you're wearing, Dom? Oh,
Yeah.
I see what happened here.
It's great.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'll sneak on to the next question from IFLS. Is it more important to acquire partnerships to support tournament growth or to use the partnership to support your organization's growth? What do you guys think?
I can chime in on this one, since I deal with both tournaments on both the pro and the collegiate scene. I would say that depending on it just really depends on your scope, right? There are some tournaments that really focus on more intimate setting and really focusing on scrimming against other collegiate orgs, and there are some that are focused on just getting that awareness and showcasing their teams. On the partnership side, we look at both. it's great that you have a a strong community. It's great that that you have a strong team in general. But like I said, it just really depends on the scope. On here, we look at both ends where, as long as it's clear communication, clear, expectations of the metrics that's being provided to us, we're able to, as a sponsor, to lend our brand awareness to help support your tournament, and at the same time, we're able to, really showcase that we're involved into the collegiate scene. So it's just finding that nice mixture on both ends.
Very much so. Looks like the next one is from CF1 Scotty. What are the best ways for students to show how they have built their school's esports brand on a resume? What do organizations look for? So I'd like to get your thoughts. We do have more on this tomorrow. We've got a how to get a job in esports, but for you guys who have lived this exact question, how would you rephrase an answer for this one?
I think demonstrating growth and shipping ideas that you envision for your campus is important. So whether you not, and it's not based on how much, but where you demonstrated that you were going to get the job done and be able to translate that on paper. An example is like, I had one person that I would definitely trust with a LAN. I was the club president of my school, but I did not know how to set up like a big LAN event. I knew how to secure space and I had other strengths to it, but I had one person that was very good at organizing the booths, setting up all the cables to make sure no one was going to get hurt. They were file code compliant. Like, this person was not going to get this event shut down, and no matter what way, shape, or form that was going to happen. We had 5,000 people show up at this event, so there had to be a lot of protocols that this person was in charge of. So demonstrating that they're able to just own a project or product goes a long way, no matter how big or how small, or like in, if it's just one event or like multiple events, being able to demonstrate that is critical. And there's many different working parts of an event. So just demonstrating that you are able to own pieces of that event is what I like to see more of on a resume.
And I know everyone has thoughts on this one, so I'm going to throw it over to Eugenia next.
So I actually host resume workshops that help answer this question, because I know that not every school has a really great career center that they can lean on for advice. But your number one skill will be learning how to get metrics, data, information, numbers, so that we can see your year-over-year growth, right? Because if you told me that you were the president of Triton Gaming, which is a club of over 5,000 members on campus and has events with over 3,000 people coming out, personally, if you'd owned all of that, I would not believe you. The club has been running for 10 years. They've been hosting Winter Game Fest and all of these other lands with thousands of people for years. So you need to show that you went from 3,000 people to 5,000 people, and that is an explosive growth. So figure out the metrics that you can put on your resume to show that you're owning a particular function. Every 4 years, you have a whole new set of students on campus. So when you say you guys have 15,000 likes on Facebook, yeah, but how many of those happened this year? Data, metrics, that's all super key. And you can also have your project portfolio the same way that a developer is going to have a GitHub, and art students going to have their artwork. Figure out a way to showcase the events, the programs, the workshops, the content that you have created for your club and include it on your resume. Link a website. Like, we would love to see that kind of stuff, because again, I think all of us have chimed in and said we love self-starters. So that's what you can do to make yourself stand out from others.
Perfect. And Dom, what advice do you have in the resume world for students looking to get into the scene?
For sure, yeah. I want to take this from a little different perspective, just because I think the answers that Kevin and Eugenia gave are super great for that. If you're a smaller school, or you're a smaller, a school student with a smaller community, I challenge you to do a project or something that you're really proud of and put that on your resume. That's a great way to add things to your resume by making sure that you're proud of something and that you've done. The other thing I also want to mention, the second part of the question is, what do organizations look for? I think that I would want to challenge you to not think about what the organizations are looking for, but look for what you care about, and then see organizations that match what you care about. Because it's important to think about it from not just like, what do I do to just get the job, but think about it from a perspective of like, what do I care about, and what companies align with my own vision that I'm already doing, that I'm already caring about, that I already want to put effort into, and look for those organizations to apply for, instead of just like looking at different organizations and trying to match what they want to do. Make sure that the company that you're applying for matches what you want to do. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Instead of matching the company to you, making sure it's what you want, and then going forward. But that's all the time that we have for the moderated Q&A. Before we wrap up, though, do you guys have any shout outs, upcoming events, ongoing initiatives that you want to tell everybody that's currently watching?
Yeah, I have one. So this month and the rest of the semester of the summer, we are running multiple live streams called a HyperX Showdown that features our top talent and also celebrities and influencers over the past, where we invite them to do a live stream. So it's just a couple of mentions here. We had Afrojack, Nicky Romero, and earlier today we actually had T-Pain and Big Cheese streaming Call of Duty Warzone. So we'll be having a lot more celebrities and musicians and esports influencers, of course. So just follow our Twitter to know a little bit more.
For Corsair, it's corsair.com/student and discord.gg/Corsair. We have summer activities happening every Tuesday at 4 o'clock Pacific. I host office hours. So if you have more questions like this that I can help answer, whether that's I'm feeling intimidated by Eugenia, please don't be, or how you can get started, or things you can do to improve either your club personally, I'm always happy to help. You can just drop by office hours. Let me know how we can, support you guys. Corsair.com/student, discord.gg/Corsair.
Robert, do you have anything before I go?
Yeah, for MSI, we're launching 2 new desktops. There are Codex and our Aegis. I'm really excited for. So definitely go check those out for your daily dose of RGB. It's really nice.
Love that RGB. For NVIDIA, we're doing the GeForce Student Stay and Play program. For the next 3 weeks, we're giving away $10,000 plus of gaming equipment, which is a lot. The top prize is a Corsair one. Thanks, Eugenia. Appreciate that. So go ahead and go over to discord.gg/GeForceStudent. And then you can see how we're doing a bunch of game nights and pop-up events and bounties and stuff like that. And we're also going to give away Twitch bits. Thanks, Kevin. Off to you.
Yeah, no, thank you all for hanging with us the last, hour. There's more afterwards. And to wrap up on my side, I do Wednesday streams. From 6 to 8 p.m. Every week. From there, I'll be making a lot of announcements that we have, a lot of cool announcements around Twitch Student as well. Be on the lookout for student streaming scholarships for the fall 2020 school year to 2021. There's a lot that we have to offer. So if you're interested in content creation, be on the lookout at my Discord at discord.gg/kabumban.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for coming to join us for Brands and Collegiate. And please stay tuned, because coming up next is Collegiate Organizations 101.
You make me feel like home. You turn around.